Sweet wines from the Mediterranean were all the rage in elite English households of the 14th and 15th centuries. Two of these, Vini Greci, that's Greek wine to you and me, and Vernage, are mentioned in a recipe from Richard II's cookery book, Form of Curry, namely pears in syrup, or to give them their medieval name, Pears in Confyt. Now, I'm not ordinarily a great fan of sweet wines. My last bottle of Moscatel de Valencia has been in the fridge so long that it has aromas of, well, methylated spirits, to be honest. I do occasionally imbibe a sweet wine with sweet puddings, of which I am most definitely an ardent fan, as you can probably tell. For my own version of pears in syrup, I found this rather lovely and not too sweet Floralis Moscatel Oro, which, as the name suggests, is more gold than the probable white of the medieval wines I just mentioned. I'm going to start my pears in syrup, however, with a red wine from Bordeaux. Bordeaux wines were extremely popular in 14th century England, though don't think of the more substantial reds we tend to drink today. Medieval wines from Bordeaux were drunk very young, since they simply weren't good enough to last past a year. So, half a bottle of my superior modern Bordeaux goes into a small pan with 4 tablespoons of mulberry syrup, a substitute for the mulberries of the medieval recipe, added primarily, it would seem, as a colourant, though undoubtedly creating some extra fruitiness to the dish. Fresh mulberries are out of season, so by all means use a few dried mulberries if you have them, or even defrost some frozen blackberries, which will give you a similar boost to colour and a similar flavour. I add to my wine mixture 2 pears, which I've peeled and left whole with their stalks remaining. I then bring my pan to a very gentle simmer and cook for about 15 minutes. Depending on your pear variety and level of ripeness, I am on the remnants of the autumn harvest of Confyt pears. You may need to adjust the time they spend simmering. You certainly don't want pear mush. I'm now going to apply some modern methodology and ignore the original instructions to take out the pears once they've cooked. It's better, in my opinion, to leave the pears sitting in the wine as it cools, and then to further bathe them in the ruby red sea overnight in the fridge, so that they can absorb more of the wine. See you tomorrow. The next day, I drain the pears in a sieve and allow them to get to room temperature. Don't throw away all that gorgeous Bordeaux and mulberry syrup, as it makes a wonderful little drink, served hot with spices of your choice. Then I get on with making the spice mix for the pears in syrup. I've just finished grinding some white powder, the original recipe's blanche poudre. It's a mix of a ratio of 3 parts sugar to 1 part dried ginger. If you want to see how I made it, based on a detailed medieval recipe found in a British Library manuscript, then simply pop over to my website and you'll find it on the premium content. Just subscribe. You could, of course, use some shop-bought powdered ginger and mix it with sugar, but where's the fun in that? Next, I make the syrup. I pour in 150 millilitres, that's 2/3 of a US cup, of my sweet wine into a small pan and add my blanche poudre. I'm using a whole teaspoon because I love the kick of ginger, but if you want a more subtle ginger taste, half this amount will work just fine. If you have succumbed to the convenience of shop-bought powdered ginger, and I cannot malign you for that, 1/4 teaspoon should suffice, along with 3/4 teaspoon of castor or superfine sugar. Bring the wine to a steady boil and reduce it to 1/3 of the original volume. I now have a delicious, floral and spiced sweet wine syrup, not too thick and not too thin. Once the syrup has cooled a little, it's time to pour it over my waiting pears, which, as you see, I've arranged in non-medieval cocktail glasses. Now it's time for tasting. Some of the syrup. That is gorgeous. The ginger is beautiful. And the sweetness of the pears still comes through.